Really important. When you go online to register to bid, you're going to tick this box which says you agree to the terms and conditions of business. One is you are saying I've done all the due diligence I want to do. I looked at an auction house the other day where we handle the bidding for it and the legal document and the registration, and I was horrified to see that over 30% of the winners, the buyers in that auction, hadn't downloaded a single legal document. Not even one. They're just buying it. I've coined the phrase, they're treating the auction catalogue like the Argos catalogue. They think it's click and collect. It ain't. You've got to do your due diligence really carefully because you don't want to be those people, and they're all dropping deposits and contracts. First thing is, if you see a property coming up for auction, tomorrow in a catalogue, if you haven't got a solicitor in hand, you're too late. You've got to get on board with a solicitor, do all your KYC, and who's prepared to work in a swift way to buy a property at auction. Because normally you buy a house in private treaty, they're going to take ages to go through all the paperwork, and they've got their set routine. This is what I do. I've got my solicitor I've been using now for nearly 40 years, well, the firm anyway. If you find out a lot, you've got to find a lot and check what it's likely to sell for. It's pointless you seeing a lot coming in with a guide price of 50,000, think, oh, I'm happy to go to 65, if things are selling for 70, 80. You're not going to get it. You're just going to waste your time and money, and lawyers aren't cheap. I then, this might sound a bit mad, I then read the legal pack, looking for reasons not to buy it. So I only need one reason, which is a showstopper, and I'm going to walk away from it. So I don't start at document A and go through to document Z. I go to the special conditions of sale, and I'll go into this. I go look at the title, look at the searches, all these sorts of things where I know what I want to have in place. Now, everybody in this room, to a greater or lesser extent, can do that. If you're unsure, phone around, Google it. So just try and find a reason. It sounds mad to do this, but I look for a reason not to buy it. Because as soon as I had, there's no point going any further if I can't get resolution on it. But I definitely don't, so I know what I'm going to read first. If I can't find any reasons not to buy, then I ask my lawyer to look at them, say, look, I've had a look through, I can't see any reason why I shouldn't buy it. Could you take a quick look? And he'll say, well, there is that or whatever. And if you want, you might then want to get your solicitor a formal report before you go and bid, having established what it's likely to sell for, and it's in your range of what you're prepared to pay. But that's what I do, and it really works well for me. You can spend thousands getting loads of reports on properties you're thinking of buying, and you don't end up buying them. Check the legal pack. Strongly recommend you take legal advice, but look for reasons why you won't bid. And we got that. Here, I'll give you some examples. Supposing this was a flat, suppose it's in Liverpool actually, supposing you're thinking of buying that, you're looking for high yielding stuff, and you want to buy properties which are yielding 10%. Well, that is 10.75%. You don't need to be an accountant, solicitor or surveyor to look at the service charge document. Here it is, 3,137 payable a year. Now that's going to take it straight down to 6%. If you want 10% after cost, that ain't the deal for you. You don't need a report on title. All you need to be able to do is subtract one number from another and work it out as a percentage. That's a good example. Have I gone back or have I gone forward? Oh no. Why did I do that? Sorry. There. I think I've worked the magic. Right. Well, we've just been through all that. What is, and I want to just call out what you think, the most important legal document in the pack, in the legal pack? Shout out. What do you think it is?
Title deeds.
Title deeds?
Lease.
Leases? Anything else? I'll tell you what it is. It's the one which isn't there and being left out by the vendor because it's stuffed full of bad news. Yeah? Because there's no sort of legal definition of a legal pack. It's your responsibility to ask for documents that you want to see, and if they're not forthcoming, you've got to ask the reason why. For instance, if it's leasehold and there's no service charge, three-year service charge documents, why not? Maybe there's no management in place for the flat. You've got to know about these things. And if they're not forthcoming, you've got to really ask the question, do I want to bid? If there's documents you want to see, and again, a lawyer solicitor who's used to auctions will know all these tricks. There are some horror stories in there. Special conditions of sale. Special conditions of sale are conditions of the sale which the vendor puts in to the contract. And sometimes they don't appear until the night before the auction. So you've got to, my strong advice is physically, don't wait to get a notification there's a new document in there. If you're going to bid, log in on the day of the auction to see if there's a document there you've not seen. But these special conditions of sale are sneaky clauses put in which you are agreeing to because you bid. This one, you can see here, it's done in a hard font. See how they printed it on some very thin paper where there's some print on the reverse side to make it hard to read. No paragraph break in a font. This actually is quite rare to see numbers in there. Quite often they just put it in £2,600 in words because you're skimming through looking for the pound sign, which is always going to be bad news because it's what you're going to pay, not what you're going to get. This was a plot of land. Bidding opened at £50. The auctioneer opened the bidding at 50 for a plot of land, about probably about size this room in some field in Wales. Somebody bid £100 for it. The lot was knocked down to him. And I was watching the auctioneers on our system, and he did that with a smug grin on his face. And I thought, oh, I know what this is. So I dived into the legal pack to look at the specials, and this was some of them. And in there, I saw that the minimum, it's £100, the minimum deposit, it said, the deposit payable will be the greater of £5,000 or 10% of the hammer price. For those of you who haven't got a calculator, 10% of £100 is £10. So we all know here it's 5,000 bigger than £10. Yes. So it was £5,000 deposit. Then there are these extra costs. Totaling, for a £100 property, there are extra conditions, £16,000. And the guy, guess what? He hadn't looked at the legal pack. I had a look. I didn't break the bad news to him. He found out the next day when his lawyer said, you do know you're on the hook for 16 grand in fees. Now, I don't know what happened. Quite often they'll say, okay, well, I'll let you off, but I want 10 grand or whatever. Do not fall foul of that. It's the first document you need to go to. Yeah, read it with a magnifying glass. It's got to be read. And as you see, there's just a few people doing this, real nasty tricks. You look at this list of extras for a £100 lot. Yeah. So I've seen in there, Wandsworth Borough Council had a lot the other day, and there was, in the special conditions was a clause which said the bidder and the buyer has to be intending to live in the property. That's quite rare, but often it's completing in 14 days, not 28. They sneak that in because if you can't complete in 14, then you're going to be an extra time, and they can say, well, you're going to drop your deposit or give me more money. So overage clauses if you get planning permission. This is quite common. Vendor is not the registered owner. So you're relying on a paper trail to prove when you shell out your 100 grand for the property, it's going to somebody who is the legal owner, albeit not registered land registry. A huge number of the properties coming from these dealers are not, the name on the title deeds is not the person who is asking you to send them the cheque. You've got to take a view on that as to whether you want to get involved. There was one I saw, buyer liable for all service charge arrears and ongoing disputes, the quantum of which are unknown. They just give me a chequebook and sign the cheque, it's the same thing. They're not all like this. There are just a few lots like this, but I don't want you guys getting caught out on it. It's a very painful experience. And as you saw on the other, pay vendors' legal costs. The office copy entries will be in here. That'll tell you who owns it. They'll be charging it, and covenants, etc. It's something it's worthwhile reading through. Restrictive covenants, you can't hang your laundry out and all that sort of thing. But it could be you can't convert it. There might be a covenant which says this property's got to remain in single occupation at all times. So you see a flat and think, well, this will make a good 6-room HMO house. No, there's a covenant there. You can't do it. It's plain English for you to read. It's better to find out first rather than after. Covenant could be can't build within 8 metres of the boundary. Neighbour has right of way of your land. Age restriction. We see a few retirement flats coming in, and people aren't realising it's a retirement flat. Think they're going to rent it out for students, but they can't, unless it's a mature student, of course. Pretty crap joke, that, isn't it? Okay. Other matters: check title plan. You know, walk the site. You do this if you're buying a house through an estate agent, but you're not under the pressure in a private treaty purchase. You know, the catalogue comes out 2 weeks before the auction. That's 10 working days to get all this done. You are up against it. Title plan is the land laid out as it appears on the lease plan. This is really important. If you're buying a leasehold flat, is the lease plan in the, does the layout of the flat match the lease plan? A couple of years ago, property came to auction, a one-bedroom flat, sold, Harman Healy auction. The guy was getting a mortgage, sent the valuer around, he wrote the report, which went to the solicitor acting for the building society. This is a lovely one-bedroom flat in whatever. She said, hang on, it's a studio flat. So he phoned the surveyor up, says, is the layout a one-bedroom studio? He said, I do know the difference, it's a one-bedroom flat. And somebody had got the room, the big studio room, divided it in half, not got freeholders of consent, unmortgageable, they dropped the deposit. So make sure that the lease flat, if it is plans the same as the layout, or you've got to be speaking to the freeholder. Date vendor purchased it. As you know, some banks won't lend if it's been changed within the last 6 months. These are all things you would do if you're buying a house in the private treaty market, but the trouble is it's all compressed into a very tight time frame. PDR's used up, rateable value. And as I say, the most important legal document there is probably the one which has been deliberately missed out. You know, don't fall foul. Ask for it. If it's not forthcoming, why not? Just talking more generally, there's two types of